Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Decree of Dominion podcast with your host, Dark Law. I'm excited to bring you episode 4 of the Decree of Dominion Uncut series. I have a very special guest here for you all this evening. Her name is Nikki Nicole out of North Carolina. She's a well known author, so I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself. Hello, Nikki.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Thank you so much for having me as a guest on your platform. I'm very honored.
It's very honored to have you.
Awesome.
And so go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about your background.
Well, my name is Nikki Nicole. I'm from South Carolina. I'm residing in North Carolina. I'm married. I have two children and a grandson. I started my writing journey at the age of 5, and I published a couple of poems along the way. And then after that, I decided to take a leap of faith and published my first book, and I couldn't stop. So I ended up publishing at least 5 books, three collections of poetry, a short story collection, and an autobiography. And that led to me getting my own podcast and starting to unleash my own voice.
Awesome, awesome. I appreciate you having it again, Nikki. And so, just to get started here, again, I want to welcome everyone out. And before I get started, I tell all my audience members and all my listeners this. Um, as we speak tonight, I want everything to resonate with certain individuals. I want everybody to look at your own life as we speak through our own opinions and our own life experiences. You don't have to glean and take a note of everything, but I just want something that is said here in the podcast to touch each and every listener out there. And so if you're listening out there or viewing, I just want you to let you know that your story matters. Everything that you're doing matters. You matter. And we'll kind of get started here. And so just to get started, why don't you go through, what excited you to becoming an author? What led you to want to start writing?
Well, like I said, I started writing when I was 5 years old, and it started because I had trauma at 5 years old. And I started writing everything that I felt, whether it was good, whether it was bad, whether it was a happy time, sad time, depressing time. And throughout my life, I just started keeping journals. And after keeping those journals, I just started turning those writings into poetry. And then when I got older and I was in high school, I decided to take a leap then of faith and publish my first poem. It was called Tears. And then after that, I published another poem called A True Friend. And those poems was just poems that at that time I lost my father when I was 15. So that poem was centered, Tears was centered around losing him. And A True Friend, it was because I felt like I didn't have any friends. So it was just something I put out there to define a true friend. So that's really how I started writing.
Awesome, awesome. Again, sorry about the passing of your father. Like I said, I know that's a lot to go through, and uh, definitely, by God's grace, it's good that you started writing. And so, if you're listening out there, she said a very keynote thing that she said when she was going over her two poems, "Tears and a True Fan." She took something that most people look at as a negative thing in life, the death of the family member, the loneliness of not having friends. She took something that most people think is negative and she turned it into a positive outlook. And so, if you're listening, I want to commend every one of my viewers to take note of something in your life. I want you to look in the mirror right now and just think of something that has negatively impacted your life, whether it be death in a family member, whether it be anxiety, depression, etc. And I want you to pick one positive thing that you could turn that negative energy into positive. And so I want to appreciate you for telling us about your poems. And so, um, kind of on that note, with your poetry, you know, what what drove you to continue? Because I know, your first two poems, you probably didn't really see too much success as far as a you know, global following or viewership. So, what made you and what motivated you to keep on writing?
Well, life was lifing. So I continued to write. I continued to write about things that were going on in my life. I was I was pregnant at 15 and I lost my father during that same time period. So of course I had trauma still going on in my life where I can still continue to write. So I was a single mother, with a child. So of course I still had something to write about. I still graduated from high school. I still went to college and got my degree. And it was like I met my grandparents when I was like in my teens. So the moment I met my grandparents, they passed away. So it's always something to write about.
Oh wow, wow. That's definitely, like I said, a lot. And again, I do continue to commend you on. Again, she keeps saying, "Hey, these things happens," and she continued to push forward, continue to move forward with your writing. And so, again, to the viewers, find your why. That's one thing you said so far throughout this episode is you found your why, your calling, which was writing and poetry and books. And again, if you're listening out there and you haven't yet found your calling, or maybe you're young and kind of still searching for answers or searching for your purpose in life, I want you to, continue to, keep God first and find something. First thing I wanted you to tell you is find something you like doing that isn't negative. Most people in society, they want to focus on going out to clubs, going out to parties, drinking, smoking. Those are what we call vices, promiscuity, things of that nature, and those vices, are very negative and they only self medicate temporarily. And so, what she's saying as she continues to tell her story, and as she's told her story thus far, is that she found something um, that involved her God given calling and talents, and she found her why, her niche, and she found something to go positive and keep moving. And so, with that being said, you know, um, tell us about the time where you first, started getting noticed with your writing, and kind of how did that feel? How did that make you feel, and kind of go from there?
Well, I actually have been a published author for 2 years. I started this journey about a year or so ago. And I started off asking people, what's the first step to become a published author? And I couldn't get that answer. So I set out and started researching for my own self. And I was like, okay, so I can upload my book and my graphics to Amazon for free and publish my book. And all I did was pay $65 for copyright. So when I found out it was just that easy, it's like, okay, wait a minute. I can publish this book. So the day that I found out, my that Amazon accepted it, Barnes and Nobles accepted it, I was like on cloud nine. I'm like, really? Okay. So I published that first book. I wrote the second book, and it just after that point, it just didn't stop. I was like, okay, now I can share with the world how I really feel on every level. So
Awesome, awesome. And so, one thing you did say is you didn't let the lack of support stop you. Again, the viewers, I hope you caught what she just said. She said, went around town, I went on Facebook, I asked all my friends, family members, colleagues, social media followers, I asked everyone, hey, how do I become a published author? And nobody would help me, and I could get no answers. And she took a stand and said, I'm still, nobody, nothing is going to stop me from becoming a published author. And she said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to lay down the footwork and the groundwork on becoming a published author. And she eventually found her own research. And so, some of the tips I want to give the viewers here today is don't let human form stop you. Don't let negativity or lack of support, lack of family support, lack of friend support stop you from pursuing your dream and your legacy. Again, people kind of clown about the negativity of social media, but social media and the internet can be used for positive influence and can be used to build and create great things. And so I want all the viewers to just take heed to that. um, Even if you don't have, like you said, a strong support system in regards of people supporting your dreams and supporting your goals, you can, you win, you be you, and you can take control of your own legacy, decree your own dominion when it comes to pursuing your dreams and your goals. And so, kind of ad lib on that. Once you finally, I've always, most people, read books and watch movies and things of that nature and write poetry. You know, can you describe the feeling that it feels when you're, taking your emotions from your headspace and putting it on paper? Can you describe how that feels?
To be honest, I talk about an experience that I had here recently. I was supposed to publish, release, well, 2 books this year, and I haven't yet to release it. Sometimes when you're writing about something that you're digging up that's gonna give you, like, feelings of that actual moment, you can live in that moment just with writing. It makes you think about what happened detail for detail, and it can actually stunt your growth. I mean, it wasn't until recently when I started writing back again because K Glow, she's wonderful. She would give me a topic and she'd say, you know what, write on this. So I write on a topic, and that actually started opening in my writer's block because when I was writing Motherhood, that was supposed to release on Mother's Day, I started thinking about the journey as a single mother and how it affected me. And it just opened another, avenue that I didn't want to go down right away. And so I just stopped writing. So sometimes your feelings can get in the way and you can start reliving those moments, and it can put you at a halt. And you're just like, okay, what do I do now?
Awesome, awesome, and I love how you describe that because I feel like you call it in the poetry and the writing space they call it writer's block, but if you're viewing, it's called life block. It's called road block. It's like if you're driving down a highway and a bunch of trees fall during a storm and you can't get to the other side. Um, that's what she just described there, and I want to commend all the viewers that are listening. Um, what she's saying is, she Cave Globe is another podcaster. What I want to tell people is find safe people, collaborate with people in your circle that are gonna push you past your own demise. What that means is you want to surround yourself with people that are going to drive you and motivate you to become the best version of yourself. What she just said is, "Hey, I was stuck within my own personal feelings, but the person I was connected to allowed me to get past that." And sometimes um, we get stuck in our own way, and you know, depending on the people that are surrounding us, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, etc., those people determine where we're willing to go. My mom always said, "You are the company you keep." Um, she always said, "You are the company that you keep." And even as a kid, she always said that, you know, if we did something negative in school or something or got in trouble with school, she always said, if Johnny jumped off a bridge, would you do it? And so, just those two short little comparisons or little sayings, resonates with writer's block and with roadblock is that if you don't have the people in your inner circle pushing you to be the best version of yourself, you need to evaluate your inner circle. Quick reference: a movie called The Equalizer. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with it. Um, with good old Denzel Washington. Um, he was speaking in the beginning of the scenes. He was speaking to one of the young ladies who was, a troubled, teenager, troubled young girl, and she was just real down and real, depressed, and said, I don't, in my world, it's not positive. And he said, change your world. And so I want to encourage all the viewers out there to, if you're in a writer's block, maybe you're a writer or a poet, or maybe you want to write your own book one day, or maybe you're in another space, maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're want to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, and you're just mentally bogged down. I want you to look in the mirror, then look around you and who's in your inner circle, and determine if that is the most successful inner circle to help you reach your goals. And if it's not, then I encourage you to seek higher counsel and um, eliminate those people and have a better circle. My mother always said, even she always said with me, she said with ex girl, she said, out of sight, out of mind. And so Um, and then she also said you can pray for people from a distance. And so, even if it's your best friend or your family member, you don't have to stay tied to them every day. Still pray for them, still love on them, but you don't have to be intertwined with them on a daily basis. And so, with that being said, I want you to speak on that. How does your how has your inner circle, Nikki, allowed you to kind of grow into who you are today?
To be perfectly honest, I've been the type of person that I wasn't popular in school. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have a lot of family support. I had the immediate family, of course, like my mom, um, and my spouse and everything, my children. But here recently, the winner circle has been my everything. When I say my everything, my everything. They support when I need support, whether it's a word of advice, whether it's a little bit of motivation, whatever it is, they push me to the next level. They push me to the max every single day. And that's why I work hard as I do. And I'm so dedicated to what I do because I know I have a family in the winner circle, people that I've never met in person that support me more than my family ever has supported me. So for that, I say I am thankful and I'm grateful to have that circle because your circle is important. People that you surround yourself around is important because sometimes people around you that are negative, get rid of them. If they're not taking you to the next level, if they're not elevating you, get rid of them. They're not they're not nobody that needs to be in your space. So, I have done a lot of that. I've done a lot of housekeeping. I've done a lot of cleaning up. I've gotten rid of a lot of people in my life that did not mean me any good. And because of that, I feel that I can go to the next level because of the simple fact I don't have these people around me now in my ear telling me what I can't do and what I will not do. Now I'm doing what I know I can do because I have people that's in my corner that support me on every set.
Amen. And I love what you said there. Um, And this is I want to speak real quick to those of you um young and old. Maybe you're in school still, in college, and you don't have many friends. Maybe you're older or a normal adult and you didn't have a lot of friends and growing up and a lot of family support. I want you to resonate. I hope that resonates with what she just said. And what she just to summarize what she just said is it's not too late. It's not too late. And what that means is, you don't have to be Miss, we always go through, prom king, prom queen, you know, the jock in high school, the football, captain of the football team, captain of the cheer squad, captain of the book club, the technological savvy genius, the science nerd. Back then, everybody doesn't have that same, friendship or that same circle. Some people are loners. Some people, have social anxiety. Some people don't, um, have a lot of friends. And I'm speaking to those people right now. I want to let you know that even if you're not a people person or you're not a sociable, you don't have a large social network, I want to let you know that it's not too late. That you can still find a group of individuals like yourselves and come together and do great positive things in the world. What she said is, hey, growing up, I didn't have, you know, back then, we didn't have a lot of social media and Facebook. But even though so, I didn't have 100 girlfriends coming over doing the slumber parties at my mom's house when I was a kid. She didn't have you know the thousands of dollars to spend on prom and having everybody pull up in a limousine. She didn't have you know everybody you know wanting to be her partner in the classroom for the science project. What she's saying is she didn't have the network and the friendship back then, but what she's saying is she didn't allow that to stop her growth. And a lot of people in society, they let the childhood and let the trauma of childhood, let the past become who they are in the future. And what she's saying is that even though I didn't have friends growing up, even though I had a child at a young age, I still allowed myself to grow slowly but surely and progress. and then she found the Winner Circle. For those of you who don't know, the Winner Circle is a in-house podcast group on Facebook, like a Facebook group where we encourage fellow podcasters to become the best versions of ourselves. And what that all that means, all that we're saying is that find your wife. Again, find your wife, find your inner circle that resonates with you. What she said is that she didn't let the childhood of not having friends determine her future or her current state. A lot of people say, that no new friends, or, you know, it is what it is, or this is what it's going to be. That doesn't have to be what it is. What it is, what it is going to be, doesn't have to be what it is. You have the power to decree your own dominion of your mind, and you have the power to enable yourself to do whatever you want to do in life. You can become the best version of yourself. And that's what she's saying is, hey, even though she's been writing since, if you look at the correlation with what she said so far throughout the episode, she started writing at 5, no family support, no friends, grew up childhood, had a kid at a young age, at age 15, still with, like I said, losing grandparents, losing father, with loss, still continued writing, became, wanted to become a published author, had no support with that, found out a way. Again, and what I want to encourage the audience is find a way. That's the topic of the discussion so far. Find a way out. Find a way out of whatever is holding you down. Find a way out of your current struggle. Find a way out. She ended up researching, becoming an author, and then she found the support that she needed to continue to pursue her dreams. And I just want to let everybody know, um, don't let anybody stop you from pursuing your own dream. And so, with that being said, can you kind of go through, for maybe I want you to kind of talk to those young people real quick. Maybe they want to become an author, or maybe they have a similar background of yourself. Maybe maybe they're 14, 15, 16, and they, are interested in writing. What would you say to your younger self, and what can you say to the?
My advice to my younger self and to the younger generation out there is first to listen. It is important to listen to your people that are older than you. They know more than you, they have wisdom. And as a young person, I listened. You know how you listen in the hindsight, you hear them, but you still do what you want to do anyway. But then you go through life and you start lifing, and then things start happening to you, and you're like, you know what? I should have listened. So the most important thing is you have to listen to somebody. You have to let people guide you that has been there before. Clearly, they know what they're talking about. And not only that, don't take everything as it is. Research for yourself. Reading is powerful. Knowledge is powerful. Don't take what people tell you. Go and find it for yourself, because not all the time the things that people tell you is the truth. So sometimes that's just like reading the Bible. Anything somebody tells you about the Bible, go read for your own understanding. My mother always told me that, read it for your own understanding, because everybody has their different perspective of the Bible. Everybody has their different perspective of life in general. So my advice to anybody that wants to be an author or wants to be somebody is to listen, read, get all the knowledge that you can get, and don't ever give up. Don't let nobody define who you are. Don't let nobody tell you that you're not going to be anything in life, because who they don't know. They don't know. They didn't write the stories to your chapters in your book. So you have to determine where you're going to go and what your success is going to be. And network. Network with anybody that you can that's like-minded, anybody that has any type of knowledge that they can give you. Be open to that, and just stay fast, and most of all, put God first, because without God, nothing is going to move.
Awesome, awesome. I appreciate everything you said there. And again, what she's telling the youth is that sometimes you're your own worst enemy. Uh, the your greatest adversary is the one looking back at you in the mirror. It reflects every punch. It reflects every side eye, every cross eye. You roll your eyes in the mirror, you're rolling it right back at yourself. You slap your face in the mirror, it's gonna slap you right back. And so, what she's saying is, take heed to the wisdom of those who came before you, and of those maybe in a higher level with. And one thing I want to say on that is, young people, we have to, young and old both, but especially young people, social media is killing us. Social media is killing us with the comparison game. We have to stop comparing ourselves. You see a girl with a nice body and a bikini on Facebook, you think you got to be shaped like that. You see somebody with a Maserati or Lamborghini or some kind of nice car, you think you got to have that. Um, Even in your own space, you might, like you said, you might be trying to be an author or a writer, and you might see somebody that published a book and got 600 million copies sold, and you get discouraged. And we have to stop the comparison game, and you have to realize that I want everybody that's viewing to realize that there's nobody else that can be better than you than you. There's not going to be another Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's Michael Jordan. There's not going to be another Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was Martin Luther King. There's not going to be another Malcolm X. There's not going to be another uh, anybody else. There's just not going to be another version of you. There's not going to be another you. And so I want everybody to resonate with that in the sense of we have to learn how to stand on our own 2 feet and support each other and commit to killing the comparison game. We have to kill the comparison game because it's killing the youth. Look at sports. If you can't shoot threes like Steph Curry, or people just stop playing. If you can't score touchdowns like Patrick Mahomes and some of the Justin Jefferson, some of the best, Randy Moss, you just think that you're not good enough. I want everybody to know that you are good enough. Again, be the best version of yourself. We don't need another Michael Jordan. We don't need another Martin Luther King. We need another you. We need you to become you. And if everybody in society becomes the best version of yourself, then you have a well-moving, well-rounded, well-oiled machine, well-moving society of people, doing great things within the world. And so I just want to tell and let everybody know that, be the best version of yourself. Don't kill the comparison game. You know, if you just started writing, if you just started playing sports, if you just started working on computers, working on cars, whatever, just be the best version that you can be. You have a skill set to bring to the table that nobody else has. You have a mindset that nobody else has. You have knowledge that nobody else has that is needed from you, by you, and only you to help everyone else. And so, with that being said, um, why don't you go into a little bit of the early stages of your writing and how life uh, how the writing impacted your life and vice versa at a young age.
Well, my writing journey started when I was 5 years old, as I stated. I actually went through a very traumatic situation at 5 that most 5-year olds wouldn't go through. A family member actually raped and molested me, um, to the point where I thought I was almost gonna die. So that's when I started carrying around my book bag and my notebook and my pencils everywhere I went because that was my way of releasing all of that pain that was inside and asking why me? Why did this happen to me? So I would say that was the beginning. And it didn't stop. That was the first time. It was times after that from multiple people that either knew the family or was in the family. Um, But that was the start of it. So at that point, I just wrote about everything, whether it was something I was feeling good about, whether it was something I was feeling bad about. I just started writing. And then also at 5 years old, I lost one of my favorite aunts at 5 years old. So it was like a lot of things in my life happened when I was young. So I had to face them at a young age. And the only way that I can face those things was to write because I was 5 years old. I didn't have a voice yet. So I wrote.
Awesome, awesome. And so, again, I want to, thank you for sharing that part of your story. You know, a lot of, it takes a lot of courage to, share, trauma and share past experiences. And I want you to know, and I want everybody to know that may have experienced that at the same age or has experienced that in general. Again, you have a voice. You're not a victim, you're a survivor. You're striving to become the best version of yourself. And so, if there's anybody viewing out there that has faced, the same trauma, the same type situation, I want to let you know right now that you have a voice and your story needs to be heard. And the best part of a story and the reason why you're not a victim and you're a survivor is the outcome of the person after the trauma. Become the best version of yourself. Continue to strive for greatness. And the enemy automatically loses. Your oppressor automatically loses. For those of you that follow the Career Dominion podcast, me and my mother, we're domestic violence survivors, which is the main, driving force of the platform. And, my dad lost because I continue to become the best version of myself. And your oppressor, Nikki, lost. Anybody on this, viewing this podcast, continue to become the best version of yourself. Whether it was a family member, whether it was a friend, a teacher, a colleague, a random guy in a park, they lost because you're going to become the best version of yourself. And so I want to say that on that is, again, what we've been saying the whole episode. Find your purpose, find your calling, find your why. Again, she said writing is what got her through the pain and the trauma. And so find something positive. If you're listening out there, find something positive that you can glean from and that you can applicate, not just something you can say, Um, for those, even for those, regardless if you're Christian or not, there's a verse in the Bible that says, prayer without work is dead faith, or faith without work is dead faith. Don't just continue to talk about positivity. Do something positive. Action, adverb. Do something positive, and it will move. If you just sit in your house and you just mope and you just say, "Oh, I'm going to be positive today. I'm going to pray about it." Yes, you continue to pray, but you have to work with the prayer, and that is the only way that your oppressor will lose is if you work with the prayer. So don't let your oppressor, don't let your enemy, your adversary prevail. Every time that you're not becoming the best version of yourself, you're saying that person has control over my life and there's nothing I can do about it. So I want to speak life into everybody viewing this podcast to say that regardless of what you went through, whether it was domestic violence, sexual violence, emotional violence, mental violence, physical, social, financial violence, or abuse, I want to let you know to continue to become the best version of yourself, and your adversary will lose. I declare him or her already lost because I know you're going to become the best version of yourself. And so, uh, with that being said, as you're going through your youth, um, I know there's a lot of there's some single mother. I'm a single father myself. there's some single parents out here that may be viewing this episode. Um, Once you kind of found out you were going to have a daughter, right? When you're going to have a child at um, at a young age of 15, what kind of emotions went through your mind, and what was kind of going through your head at the time?
Well, the first thing people do is ridicule you, especially when you're young, that young anyway, and you're pregnant. So the first thing was I was embarrassed. I felt like I failed my mother, and now here I am, 15. I'm like, what am I gonna do with a child at 15? How am I gonna, do this? But abortion was never an option for me. I'm always the type of person that's gonna like face everything that I go through. Whether it's gonna take me through a lot, I'm just gonna face it. So of course at 15, I'm like, am I gonna be able to finish school? Am I gonna be able to do this? But thankfully my mother stood by me. She stood by me. She helped me along the way. I took classes to learn how to be the best mother that I could be. I still participated in the band. I played the piano. I played the trumpet. I went to competitions. I still did things in the church because I had to. My mom was very spiritual, so I had to usher. I had to sing on the choir. That was just what we did every Sunday. We went to church. Yeah, so that was just her way of introducing me to God, and I thank God for that because if she did introduce me to God when I started lifing out here, I wouldn't have had nothing else, nobody to turn to if I didn't know who God was. So at 15, I'm looking like, okay, here I am, 15. I'm in church, I'm ushering, and I'm like, I feel bad. So I passed out. Me not thinking that, okay, I'm pregnant. I'm thinking I'm just sick. So we get to the emergency room. I got my book bag and my notebook and my pencils, and I'm still writing about this too. And the doctor says, "Oh, we got good news and I got bad news." Okay, so we like, what's the good news and what's the bad news? So both the news he gives is you're pregnant, but you're gonna live. I'm what? So of course my mom, right away she couldn't deal with that. She was very heartbroken. She was disappointed. So I went to my aunt's house for a little bit until she calmed down and finally came around to it. And she was like, "You're gonna take care of this child. You're gonna do what you got to do." And she didn't play. If my child couldn't go, I couldn't go. I had to get up in the mornings before I went to school, make sure my child was dressed, fed, and ready for, the day. When I got out of school, I had to do my homework and I had to get my child and take care of my child. So she didn't give no excuses when it came down to being that parent. I was alone. His father, I had my son first. His father wasn't there. And he's never laid eyes on him to this day. So he doesn't even know he's in this world, where he's at in this world. And I still kept going. I never gave any negative advice to my children about their fathers because at the end of the day, I feel like whatever they need to see about their fathers will be shown without me telling. So about 5 years later, I had my daughter. Her father was there initially. I was very sick. I was very sick with her. I was in and out the hospital. So the doctor took me out of the hospital and I couldn't work at all. She wouldn't let me eat. She wouldn't let me keep anything on my stomach, not even water. And she kept trying to come early. So I was very sick. So in the beginning, he was there. And then next thing you know, he disappeared. And then when she's born, he shows back up again. Oh, she looks like me. And then he disappears again. So when she turned about 18, she was getting ready to graduate. He came to me. He said, I thank you for raising such a great daughter. I really appreciate you. At 18, we're not done. The real raising of your children doesn't start. It starts when they become adults because now they're in a moment where you can't save them. You have to really guide them through life. You have to teach them about credit. You have to teach them about God. Well, they was already getting taught about God, but you have to teach them about finances and living on their own and survival. It gets harder when they become adults. When they're children to me, that's the easy part. But you wait till we get to 18 and you tell me good job. So I mean, being a single parent has its ups and downs, but it's rewarding because you have these little people looking at you. They're depending on you. They're looking at you as a role model, and they love you. If nobody else in this world don't love you, they're gonna love you. Oh, and I will say this too. During that period of time too, I went through a really bad time where I faced suicide because coming up as a child, I was that person that would get picked at. And it just for years just torn it at me for a while. And this particular time, my heart was broken. So I was like, I don't need to be here anymore. It's time to go. So I attempted it. And not thinking at the time, okay, you got these two little people looking at you that wants you to live. And I never forget, I was laying on that bed and I was looking at the ceiling. They were pumping my stomach, and all I can think about was getting back to them. How I needed to make things right, and it was a purpose for me being in this world, and I need to find that purpose. And I had to be here for them. So being a mother and being a single mother, it would change your life, and you know that you're all they have. You're all they have. So that's my take on it.
Amen, amen, Nikki. Appreciate you sharing that. I want to go back to what everything she just said throughout what she just said. If you're listening to the podcast, this episode right now, what she said was she never stopped going. Never give up. She said her mother, one, like I said, I'm not one to judge on what, I feel like, women can do what they want with their bodies. But she said in her situation, again, neither here or there, her situation, abortion was out the window. Her mother said, let's go. Put the big girl boots on, let's go. You wanted to be a woman, so you're gonna be a woman. And the word I want to use is never give up. She never stopped going. Again, I want to encourage everyone listening to the episode. Never stop going. Never give up. She was in the band. She was in the choir. She was the usher. She was doing homework. She never quit. Never stop going. There's people that, in their 20s and 30s having their first child ready to, give it quit. She was 15 years old, y'all. 15 years old. And she did not quit. She refused to quit. Never give up on your dream. Never give up on your purpose. And to fast forward, another thing she said that was kind of hidden in there, because I'm a single father myself, she said, regardless of what other humans did with her children's fathers, she did not speak ill will to her children. I want to pause on that and talk about that topic real quick. Um, just because I've been the same way, like I said, I have joint custody of my twin boys. Like I said, we decided to co-parent before they were born. Um, Never tell your children negative things about their mother or father. What she said in her story was, regardless of, again, she said the second child's father, the father of her daughter, said at 18 years old, when her child, imagine, I just want everybody that has kids, has a niece, nephew, or just look at your own self. Imagine you're 18 years old, about ready to cross the graduation stage at your local high school. Just hold that thought for 1 second. Whether you have kids or not, or look at yourself if you don't have kids, or niece, nephew, what have you. 18 years old, her daughter was 18 years old, about with the cap and gown on, crossing the stage to get her high school diploma. And her father told her mother, good job on raising our child. I just want that to sit for a second. Simmer. That goes right back to never give up. And then she says she never spoke ill or negativity to her children, son and daughter, about their other parent. I just want to speak to the audience real quick about how much power is in that statement. Regardless of what another human being has done to you, regardless of, again, you heard her speak of the childhood trauma, 5 years old of being assaulted by family, 15 years old having her first child, all while growing up in the church. Fast forward, the son's father, again, disappeared without a trace, nothing to do. The second father, at 18, her daughter's 18-year-old graduation, says, "Good job, half five," like, it's football or like a team sport, like she's the coach. And still did not speak one negative word to her children about their parent. Just real quick, can you say what you said in regards of the reality of the other parent being revealed?
Say that one more time.
Can you repeat what you said about the reality of the other parent? Like you said, it will be revealed, like
About
about the father.
my daughter's father.
Yes.
When she turned 18 and graduated.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean the phone call was just basic, hey, how you doing? And I just want to let you know that, you did a great job with raising our child. And meanwhile, he didn't come to the graduation. He didn't participate in that at all. But I still didn't speak any negativity over him. One day I hope that both my children have that relationship with their fathers, but it comes back to me. I take full responsibility of the choices that I made as a mother. I should have made better choices. And because of my choices, they suffered. So I take full responsibility for that.
Again, as a parent, you have to take full responsibility of your children. And she said, in quote, even getting off the phone with him, of him saying good job, still to this day does not speak any negativity to her parents, allows what about their father shall be revealed in due time when they are ready to pursue that relationship. And again, I want to encourage all the parents out there, single parents that maybe don't have a good relationship with the other half. Let the child in time figure it out. Don't put stuff in their head. Let God be, and let the child figure out for themselves. And so, to continue, she also said, again, for those of you that may have or may have not had, suicidal thoughts or attempts, I just want you to let you know what she said was, I had a purpose. I had a will to still live. I was still wanted here. She had two kids, two children looking up to her. God was not finished with her, is what she said. Many times throughout life, again, life is hard. I want everybody to know life is hard. We've all had those dark moments. We've all had depression, anxiety, etc. But what she said in her story was, God's not finished. And she said, I'm not finished living. I still have a purpose. And to this day, she's still moving and performing and progressing towards that purpose. She's still living that purpose. And so I want to encourage every viewer out there to continue. If you don't have your purpose, find your purpose. And even when you find your purpose, continue to live out your purpose and help others live out their purpose. The Bible says we'll leave an inheritance for your children's children. So leave a mental inheritance of wealth of knowledge for the others so they can leave it to their children's children. And again, like I said at the beginning, if we all become the best version of ourselves and we become a society that's living out the best version of themselves, you be you, and we all can leave an inheritance for our children's children. And so, with that being said, um, you said a lot of great things thus far in the episode, Nick. And again, I want to commend you on telling your story and being open and honest with the audience and with myself as well. And so, with that being said, can you kind of break down, you know, how your children um, are, and what has become of, how they're raised, and give some positive insight on, how your story has impacted your children and their lives.
Well, I wanna say that I do commend my children because my daughter, I was so afraid that my daughter would get pregnant and follow in my footsteps at a young age. Um, and the crazy part about it, when I was 15, pregnant, that's when my father died. So 2 weeks later, after my father was buried, that's when I found out I was pregnant with my son. So the hurt with that is my father would never see my children. My father didn't never see, me walk across the stage for high school. He didn't see me, go to college and walk across the stage. He missed a lot of milestones. And it's like when I was a child, he was there, but he was that quiet person too. So that's probably why I was in my shell for all my life, because I had a lot of him in me. I was just quiet and kind of observing and to myself. But I'm grateful to say that my daughter didn't have a child until she was well in her 20s. And people, I think, were looking for her to get pregnant at a young age because I did. But I preached so much about, no, baby, we're not gonna take that road. We're gonna finish school. You're gonna go off to college, and you're gonna be somebody, and you're not gonna, follow in your mama's steps and make the same mistakes that she made. My son, he had a scare when he was right at 18. But couldn't find out that wasn't his child. And so I'm grateful to say that my children, they made it out of school. They are great kids. They have, just like anybody else kids, they have their ups and downs. But for the most part of it, they're trying and they're doing the best that they can every single day. And for that, I'm proud of them.
Amen, amen. Glad, again, something that happened to you negatively, you turned it into positive, got blessed with two beautiful children out of it, and they became and still becoming, wonderful members of society, becoming the best version of themselves. And so, the last thing you said in your testimony, I want to touch on real quick as well. You said again, I hope everybody is tuning in and catching all these good nuggets that we keep dropping. What she said, I want to speak to the parents real quick out there. What she said at the end of her testimony, because y'all thought I forgot. See, y'all thought I forgot, but no, I was just waiting to speak on it. She said that the real parenting does not start until the child is past 18 into adulthood. Again, what she said at the very end of her testimony, again, y'all listening thought I forgot, but I didn't. I was just letting it marinate. She said the real parenting does not start until after the children trials have passed. And I want you, Nikki, I want you to speak. I want you to elaborate on that a little bit. I know we talked about, taxes and credit and living on your own, survival, things of that nature. I want you to, go into that a little more in depth on, why, why you feel that way. And I'll let you go ahead and go.
So I think the biggest challenge about being a parent when your children become adults is they're not listening anymore. They're not listening to you. They don't really care about what you got to say when they're grown, because they feel like, oh, I can do what I want to do. But then They get into trouble, and then they expect you to bail them out. So this is when it becomes the biggest challenge because now they're starting to learn lessons, but they're still rebellious against you, even though they're adults. That yeah, they can do what they want to do. But this is the point in time where you cannot save your children. They can go to jail. The only thing that can save them is some bond money. And sometimes that may not save them. So you can give advice. You can tell them, oh, I want you to go this way, and they still go to the right. But then they still go and do things that they're not supposed to do. So the reason why I say the real parenting starts then because now you're starting to build these young men and build these young women to seasoned adults that don't have to go through things. But most of the time, we don't listen. We're all hard headed. We don't listen to things, but that's when the real parenting start. When they're children, you can tell them to stop. You can pop them, or you can put them on punishment or that type of thing. But when they become adults, you you no longer have that option. So you can speak your piece all you want to, but and they can take it or they can leave it, and they may not listen to you. So sometimes you have to let go as a parent when they become an adult. You have to let go and really let God, because at this point you can't save them. You got to let God be God, and it's sad. And to be honest, I'm just getting to the point where I'm letting God be God. I'm letting them kind of go through life and kind of bump their heads a little bit without mama being there to save them because I've always felt like, well, I'm all they have. So I gotta save them from this scar they're gonna get. I gotta save them from this bruise. But now I'm kind of letting them go through life and hey, you gotta learn. You gotta bump your head a little bit. Mom's here, but I'm gonna be there with the ointment and the band-aid after you go through that fall because I can't save you every time.
Amen, amen. I appreciate you breaking that down. And again, what she's saying is that, time after time, a lot of us, back then were taught, once you turn 18, get out the nest, boop, get out the birds, get out the nest, you're 18 now, you know, I did the best I can, whether I did or didn't. And, you figured it out. I just commend, you as well, Nikki, and, my mother. I do have a younger sister. She's 24, about to get her master's degree in February. And so, um, what that just means is that, again, like you said, let God be God. And also, my mother's done a great job of continuing to support me even to this day at 27 and my sister at 24. And I want to let all the viewers know that have kids that are older or approaching the age of 18, the job's just the beginning. The job's just beginning. I have twin boys. They're only almost 7, but even when they turn 18, that's when we. Um, what you have to understand, whether you have a mother, whether you have a son or daughter, is that you're preparing them for adulthood, and then when they get to the adulthood, you rehance what you taught them, and the teachings continue. They just get different because now you're a man or a woman or what have you. That's the only difference. They're still your child, but the lessons get harder. The room for error gets smaller or slimmer, and there is no saving you. There's no going back. There's no practice, if you will. Everything is now applicable. Whereas as a kid, for the most part, unless it's something drastic, it's everything's kind of on practice mode or on tutorial mode. Whereas as an adult, you're going everything's live action. Like, hey, let's go. And so again, I want to appreciate you taking the time to tell your story here today, Nikki. Real quick, can you one last word of advice for anybody viewing the episode, and then close out with where they can find your podcast and where they can find your books?
All right, so just some quick advice for everybody. A long time ago, I had a church member to tell me, and that's why I say all the time, don't let anybody define who you are. As long as you are comfortable in your skin and you know who you are, you can go anywhere you want to go. Because why? You believe in yourself. So don't let anybody tell you what the chapters look like in your book because they don't know. You know. And of course, you're going to be the biggest critic of yourself because I am. I look at myself in the mirror every day and I'm like, you can do better. You really can do better. And that's why I push myself every single day to be the better version of myself, not only for myself, but because of my children. I mean, they're 23 and 26. I mean, they're 20, I said 26. They're 23 and 28. But at the end of the day, they're still looking at me. I know they're looking at me. And they're expecting me to be that role model still. Plus, I have a grandson coming along, and he's one. So I hope that one day he can be the future CEO of everything that I have going. So I have to be the better version of myself in order for him to be the best version of himself. So my advice for everybody is to stay focused, stay determined, put God first. Because I'm telling you, without him, nothing is going to move. Trust me. He wrote the story. He wrote the chapters. He already know what your fate is. He know where you're going. You just got to put in the work. What it says, faith without works is dead. And that's true. So you got to put in the work to get where you got to go. It's going to be some long days. It's going to be some short days. But either way, you got to keep moving. You can't stop because somebody giving you some negative advice or somebody telling you can't. That's the word. Can't do something. Don't let nobody tell you can't do nothing. Because you can do whatever you want to do. You can do whatever your heart desires. Okay, I'm gonna get off the soapbox. So, anyways, you can find my podcast on Facebook, the Breaking the Silence podcast Facebook page. I'm also Arthur Nikki Nicole on Facebook. I'm Breaking the Silence 24 on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. Breaking the Silence podcast 1980. I'm on Twitter. BTS podcast 1980. I'm on Twitch, but I don't remember that name of Twitch because I just recently created Twitch. So I'm on all platforms. Come join me and let's break the silence together and unleash your inner voice.
Thank you. And so, again, thank you for a wonderful time spent here, Nikki, going through her story. Again, appreciate all you went through and appreciate you overcoming and becoming a warrior and a survivor, striving to be the best version of yourself on a day by day basis. Again, this has been Dark Law with the Korean Dominion podcast on the Korean Dominion Uncut episode 4. Arthur, Nikki, Nicole. Hope everyone has a great, wonderful rest of their evening. And until next time on the Decree of Dominion. Thank you. Thanks, Nikki.